Let's talk some NFL. Little PJ pick five. 5 bets that I got for you guys, some futures on some of these quarterbacks for the upcoming season that I really like. First one, we're going to start with Geno Smith over 3,675.5 passing yards for the upcoming season. As you guys know, I'm high on the Raiders this season. I think over 6.5 wins is a great look. I think this potentially could be one of the surprise teams in the NFL that maybe compete for a playoff spot. Pete Carroll's 73 years old. You know, he didn't come back to the NFL to win 6 games. He thinks with this situation that he's in, with the roster that he has, trading for Geno Smith, they have a plan to try and be competitive. I know the division obviously is difficult, but I think the Raiders are going to be competitive this year, and I think Geno's going to have a very good season. But why I'm high on Geno this year, you guys, and I've talked about this before, Geno Smith, when he plays in a dome, is awesome. Talk about golf. You know, some of these guys like the splits when they're outdoors, when they're at home. Really don't talk about it with Geno. But when he was with the Seahawks, he played 14 career road games indoors. In those games, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a 110.8 passer rating. He's normally really good when he's inside. And obviously now playing in Vegas, all his home games are going to be indoors. He's going to play 12 games this season inside. So that is a huge benefit for Geno Smith this year. The reason I'm going with the passing yards and not the passing touchdowns is because, again, they still don't have a great receiving core. You know, it's Jacoby Myers, it's Trey Tucker. There's really not much there to work with, but they do have Bowers and they do have Gentry, who should rack up a ton of yards this season for the Raiders. So that's why I like the passing yards for Geno, man, because I think this is going to be one of those teams that are going to settle for a lot of field goals. Like I think Carlson's still a Raiders kicker. I got to double check on that. But whoever their kicker is could be a great option this season in fantasy football. I love Geno to throw for a bunch of yards. I think he could get to 4,000 this season. I think Gentry's going to have a great year as a receiving back. Certainly Bowers as well. But the key for me is that Geno is playing for a team now where his home games are indoors. And throughout his career, especially with Seattle, he was always great in a dome. So give me Geno Smith over 3,675.5 yards at plus 100. As my first play. Shawnee Sharp tells me Carlson still is the kicker for the Raiders. So, yes, I do like him a lot this year in fantasy. Coming up, number 2 for me, Dak Prescott over 23.5 passing touchdowns at minus 110 this year for the Cowboys. So, obviously, Dak's coming off the injury, right? That is the big concern. How is he going to look? Is he going to get back to his MVP form that he showed a couple years ago? I think this number, though, is too low. The last 3 years that Dak has played a full season, he has thrown for 30 or more touchdowns. And it's only at 23.5. That's the risk you run when you bet season-long overs, especially in the NFL. Injuries are always going to play a factor, and it's probably baked into the number a little bit. But now with the addition of George Pickens, and you have Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, 2 guys that are great at the 50-50 ball, winning their one-on-one matchups, should be great targets for him in the red zone along with Jake Ferguson. If Dak stays healthy, you guys, I think he should have another 30 or more passing touchdown season. Schottenheimer now obviously takes over as the head coach. When he was there helping McCarthy with the offense, we saw early on in the season when Dak was out there, Dallas was slinging the ball all over the field, man. And they really haven't done much to address the running back room. It's still like Javonte Williams as their lead guy, so nothing special. They're going to lean on Dak. They're paying him the most amount of money of any player in the NFL. They got him another weapon in George Pickens. Like, Dak's got to show up this year, and if he stays healthy, I think he's going over 23.5 passing yards, so I like that play for him. Number 3 for me, how about Jared Goff under 28.5 passing touchdowns at minus 120? So I really like going under here for Jared Goff, and there are 3 big reasons. The first one is going to be that he just lost his center, Frank Ragnow, who's one of the best in the NFL, to retirement. And when you're a guy like Jared Goff, who's not a mobile quarterback, Tom Brady would talk about this all the time, the place where you do not want to get pressure from the defensive line is straight up the middle. And now that he's lost his center, that is a big loss for Jared Goff. Number 2, obviously the loss of Ben Johnson, right? We've seen Jared Goff throughout his career, when he is coached by guys that are not offensive geniuses, he tends to struggle. When he started his career with Jeff Fisher, he looked like he was going to be a bust. But then he gets with Sean McVay, and he looks pretty good. Then he has some years where he doesn't look all that great, pairs up with Ben Johnson, then all of a sudden he looks amazing. The weapons are still there, but I think Ben Johnson calling plays is really going to make a big difference. So that is a concern for me. And then the third reason why I like Goff under 28.5 passing touchdowns is going to be much like Geno. The fact that Goff's schedule this year is not as advantageous as it was for him last year. He's going to play 6 games this year where he is outdoors. And in those games, the Lions are certainly going to try and run the football and try and take the ball away from Goff as much as they can, because we know when Goff is outdoors, he tends to struggle much more than when he's indoors. So Jared Goff under 28.5 passing touchdowns. No more Frank Ragnow at center. No more Ben Johnson. 6 games outdoors under 28.5 for Jared Goff. How about Patrick Mahomes? We're going over 27.5 passing touchdowns for him this season. I think Mahomes, you guys, last couple of years for Kansas City, I mean, let's be honest. It's felt like they're just kind of doing enough to get by, right? They just kind of want to breeze through the regular season, avoid the major injuries, get to the playoffs, and then flip on a new gear. It feels like this year could be a little different, though, and the odds are reflecting that with Kansas City. They aren't like minus 250, minus 350 anymore to win the AFC West. We know the Broncos are getting better. The Chargers are getting better. The Raiders are getting better. And I think the last 2 years, Kansas City's offense has struggled in the regular season. Mahomes has thrown 26 and 27 touchdowns the last 2 years. Now you have a full year of Hollywood. Rashee Rice is going to be back. Year 2 is Xavier Worthy. Obviously, Kelsey's on the decline. He's not the player that he once was, but I think Mahomes is going to have at least 30 passing touchdowns this season. So I would take his over. And then finally, Drake May. We're going to go under 3,300.5 passing yards for Drake May this season for New England. Mike Vrabel's now the head coach for the Patriots. And when we watch Mike Vrabel's teams play in Tennessee, what do you think of, right? You think Derrick Henry running the football, and you think great defense. Ryan Tannehill was good in that offense for a couple years because of the play-action game of Derrick Henry and because A.J. Brown is a yak machine. Well, he doesn't have that kind of guy at a receiver for New England, right? Diggs isn't that dude. Kendrick Bourne isn't that dude. Like, they don't have guys that can make plays after the catch. They don't have any really great deep threats. So they drafted Travion Henderson. You got Ramondre Stevenson. You got a decent defense. That's going to be the Patriots' DNA this year. It's going to be running the football. It's going to be good defense. They're not going to go 4 wide, 5 wide, and ask Drake May to sling it 40 times a game. I like under 3,330 yards for Drake May this season. So those are my 5 NFL quarterback futures that I love this season, you guys. Geno over yards, Dak over touchdowns, Jared Goff under touchdowns, Mahomes over touchdowns, and Drake May under passing yards.